Hello, welcome to Unlocking Buddhism. Have you ever had that feeling like something just isn't right? Like no matter how hard you try, something always feels a little off, a little heavy, a little out of place? Maybe it's that quiet stress you carry when you wake up, or the pressure to always be more, do more, have more. Or maybe it's just this low, constant noise in your mind that never really goes away. Now imagine, what if there were simple truths, ancient, gentle, but powerful, that could help you understand why you feel this way? And even better, what if they could show you how to feel lighter, calmer, more connected? Not someday, not after you've fixed everything, but right now, just as you are. Today I want to share 5 beautiful lessons from Buddhism. And no, this isn't about religion, and you don't need to believe in anything special. This is about life, about seeing things more clearly, about finding peace in the middle of your everyday mess. These lessons are simple enough for anyone to understand, but deep enough to stay with you for the rest of your life. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to sit cross-legged or wear special robes. All you need is a few minutes and an open heart. And here's something fun to do as you listen. At some point, there might be a word or a phrase that hits you, that feels like it was meant just for you. When that happens, pause for a second and leave that one word in the comments. Maybe it's something totally unexpected. Whatever it is, share it. You never know who else might need to see that exact word today. Have you ever felt like life keeps pulling the rug out from under you? Like, every time you think you've finally figured things out, something unexpected shows up. A flat tire, a breakup, a bad grade, a job loss, or just that weird cloud of sadness that hits you for no reason. And you think, why is this happening? That's the trap most of us fall into. We grow up hearing that if we work hard, are kind, do things right, then life will be smooth. We'll be happy, people will treat us fairly, and our plans will work out. But life doesn't work that way. And here's the truth that Buddhism helped me understand. Suffering is part of life. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, great, more bad news, let me explain. Buddhism doesn't mean we're doomed to be miserable. What it really teaches is something so important, most people miss it. The reason we suffer isn't because bad things happen, it's because we expect them not to. Think about that. The pain comes not just from the event itself, but from the shock that it happened at all. We expect life to be fair, to make sense, to be comfortable. But life has its own rhythm. It doesn't follow our plans. Sometimes it gives us sunshine, sometimes it gives us storms. And no one, literally no one, escapes this. Not the rich, not the famous, not the wise. Even people who seem to have it all face sickness, loneliness, fear, and loss. That feeling of something's missing. You might get the dream job, but then realize it's super stressful. You might fall in love and still argue or feel misunderstood. You might take that vacation and get food poisoning on day 2. That's life. It's a wild, beautiful, confusing mess. And here's the game changer. When we stop expecting it to be perfect, we stop being shocked when it's not. That doesn't mean we become numb or stop caring. It means we develop something powerful. Resilience. We learn to ride the waves instead of getting knocked over by everyone. We learn that it's okay to have hard days, to cry, to be uncertain, and we stop thinking we're broken just because life is hard. Imagine for a moment that your life is a garden. Some days it's blooming, bright and full of color. Other days, weeds pop up, a storm hits, things wilt. But that doesn't mean it's a bad garden. It means it's alive. So instead of trying to force everything to be perfect, what if we just got better at caring for the garden as it is, watering it when it's dry, pulling the weeds when they grow, sitting with it quietly when it's not blooming yet? That's what acceptance means. Not giving up, not settling, just finally seeing life clearly, without the fantasy filter. And when you do that, even the hard moments start to feel less heavy, because now you know, this too is part of it. So the next time life feels unfair or off track, don't panic, don't spiral. Just pause and tell yourself, oh, right. And then keep going, because you're not doing life wrong. You're just doing life. When I buy that car, move to that city, reach that weight, get that number of followers, it's okay if you have. We all do it. It's kind of how we're wired. There's a part of us that always believes happiness is just one step ahead, just one achievement away. But what happens when we get the thing we wanted? We feel good for a little while. Then, almost like magic, the feeling fades, and we start looking for the next thing. It's like trying to fill a never-ending hunger. You eat, but you're hungry again soon after. You chase, but you never fully arrive. This endless chasing, this constant not enough feeling, is what Buddhism calls tanha, a thirst that can't be quenched by more stuff, more praise, more wins. It's not just about craving things. It's about craving certainty, control, security, love, attention. It's the belief that something out there will finally fix the restlessness inside. But here's what no one tells you. The more you chase, the more restless you become. Because what you're really searching for isn't out there. It's a sense of peace. And peace doesn't come from grabbing. It comes from letting go. That's hard to hear, right? It goes against everything we've been taught. Let's imagine this with a story. Picture a child at the beach, trying to hold on to a handful of sand. The tighter they squeeze, the faster the sand slips away. But if they open their hand and hold it gently, the sand stays. Our desires work the same way. Cling too tightly, and we lose everything, even our peace. Loosen your grip, and suddenly, there's space to breathe. This doesn't mean you should stop dreaming or wanting things. Of course not. It means learning how to want without attaching your happiness to the outcome. Want the job? Go for it. Want love? Absolutely. But remember, your worth doesn't increase when you get those things, and it doesn't disappear when you don't. True freedom comes when you stop needing life to be a certain way in order to feel okay. That's what Buddhism teaches. Not to give up on life, but to stop tying your well-being to things that are always changing. Because here's the truth. Everything changes. That phone you love, it'll break. That person you adore, they'll change. That success you crave, it won't satisfy you for long. So the deeper practice is learning how to live in the now, with a heart that's open, but not desperate. That's where peace lives. And you'll know you're healing from the craving when you start appreciating ordinary things. A quiet morning, a good laugh, the way sunlight hits your window. These moments were always there. We were just too busy running to notice. Because maybe, just maybe, the peace you're searching for isn't in the next thing. It's in learning to stop searching. Now, let me say something that might sound unbelievable at first. You don't have to suffer forever. I know, it sounds like some fairy tale. We get so used to it, we just accept it. We carry our emotional wounds like they're permanent tattoos. But what if they aren't? What if that tension in your chest, that constant not enough in your mind, could actually ease? Not disappear magically, but soften. What if peace isn't something rare or reserved for a few enlightened people, but something you could slowly, gently grow inside you? That's exactly what Buddhism teaches. The Buddha wasn't some mystical figure waving his hands and making pain vanish. He was someone who saw clearly. We hurt ourselves a lot more than we realize. Not on purpose, but because we've been taught to grab, to control, to expect, to fear, to cling. And those things, they create suffering. But here's the key. If suffering has a cause, it can also have a solution. Think about it like this. If a fire starts because you left the stove on, you don't try to fight the fire with your hands. You go to the source. You turn off the stove. That's what this teaching is about. You don't have to fix the world or make everyone love you or reach some perfect version of yourself to find peace. You just need to recognize what's feeding the fire inside you and slowly stop adding more fuel. That's freedom. And it starts with the radical idea that you're allowed to stop suffering. You don't have to keep replaying that past mistake in your head. You don't have to keep proving your worth to people who don't see you. You don't have to keep punishing yourself because you're not where you thought you'd be. You can stop. You can actually say, this pain has been here long enough. That doesn't mean pretending everything's fine. It means seeing the pain clearly and refusing to carry it like it's your only option. You may have heard the metaphor. Pain is like being hit with an arrow. But what do most of us do? We grab another arrow and stab ourselves again by overthinking, blaming, judging, resisting. We make it worse. Buddhism invites us to drop the second arrow, to stop making the wound deeper. And how do we do that? Not with force, not with guilt, but with presence, with awareness. And this isn't some spiritual bypassing. No, it's far more grounded than that. It's real healing. Not in some distant future, not after 10 years of therapy or a retreat in the Himalayas, but starting right now, with one thought, one breath, one small act of compassion toward yourself. That's what this teaching is really about. The end of suffering isn't a switch. It's a path, a process, a choice, one you can start today by being a little kinder to yourself, by noticing your thoughts without believing all of them, by forgiving yourself for not knowing then what you're learning now. And slowly, you realize, the weight starts to lift, the mind begins to clear, the heart begins to open, and you find something you maybe thought you'd lost. Peace. Not because the world changed, but because you did. So yes, the end of suffering is possible, and it begins not with struggle, but with surrender. And once that whisper rises, even if it's soft, even if it's just once, something begins to shift. Because deep down you already know, there has to be a way to live that feels more real, more grounded, more whole. One of the most comforting truths I've ever heard is this: there's a way out of the struggle, not by running from life, not by pretending everything's fine, but by walking a path that leads you right back to your center. Most of us are so busy trying to hold everything together, our relationships, our image, our to-do lists, our emotions, that we don't realize we're living on autopilot. We wake up, we go through the motions, we try to avoid pain, we try to chase comfort, we repeat yesterday over and over again, and we wonder why we feel stuck or exhausted or lost. But here's the thing, we're not broken, we're just disconnected from ourselves, from the present moment, from the deeper, quieter part of us that already knows what matters. The Buddha saw this clearly. He understood that life isn't always gentle, that we struggle, that we get confused, but he also saw that there's a way to walk through life with more steadiness, more kindness, more clarity, no matter what's happening around us. And that's the gift of the path he shared. It's not a list of rules. It's not a rigid system. It's a way of being in the world that brings you back to yourself. Not the self shaped by pressure or fear, but the self rooted in awareness. It teaches you to slow down, to stop living reactively, to notice what's going on beneath the surface, not to judge it, but to understand it. And not just asking, but listening for the answers, even when they're uncomfortable. And what happens when you walk this path isn't that life suddenly becomes easy or pain disappears. The challenges still come, but your relationship with them changes. You stop panicking at every storm. You stop grasping for control when things shift. You stop needing everything to go your way just to feel okay. Because you've built something more powerful than control. You've built clarity. You're able to pause before you react, to speak from compassion instead of defense, to take care of yourself instead of abandoning yourself in the name of productivity or people-pleasing. You begin to trust yourself again. And from that trust comes a kind of peace that's deeper than anything the outside world can offer. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment to begin. You don't need to go somewhere else. You don't need to fix yourself first. The path to peace begins the moment you decide to pay attention. It's in the breath you're taking right now, in the way you choose to respond when you feel triggered, in the kindness you offer yourself when you fall short, in the way you start showing up fully for your own life. And yes, there will be days when you forget, days when you react out of habit or fear or anger. That's part of the journey too. The path isn't about walking perfectly. It's about remembering you can return to it again and again. Every time you pause to breathe, to reflect, to choose differently, you're on the path. Every time you act with intention instead of impulse, you're on the path. Every time you decide to stay present, even when it's hard, you're on the path. And with each step, something inside you begins to shift. Not loudly, not all at once, but quietly, deeply, lastingly. So if you're wondering when to begin, how to begin, or if you're even capable of changing, the answer is simple. Begin now. Begin here. Because this path doesn't lead you away from life. It leads you home. And once you've felt even a small glimpse of it, that feeling of being grounded, of being safe inside your own presence, there's only one question left. How do you return to that place again and again, no matter what the world throws at you? Because let's be honest, the world doesn't slow down for us. It pulls us in every direction. We wake up already overwhelmed. There are messages to reply to, deadlines to meet, people to please, expectations to carry. We scroll, we rush, we perform. We keep moving because, in some way, we're afraid of what might surface if we stop. But what if stopping wasn't something to fear? What if stillness wasn't an absence, but a return? Imagine, just for a moment, that you could press pause, that everything around you, the noise, the pressure, the judgments, the plans, could fade to silence. And in that silence, nothing is expected of you. You don't have to be impressive. You don't have to be productive. You don't even have to be okay. You just have to be here. That's what meditation offers. Not perfection, not escape, but a homecoming, a way of coming back to yourself after being stretched thin by the world. A soft place where you can finally breathe without trying to prove anything. It's not about shutting off your mind. It's not about becoming someone enlightened or untouched by emotion. Meditation is simply the practice of noticing. Noticing your thoughts without believing all of them. Feeling your emotions without letting them take over. And finding a still point inside you that doesn't move, even when everything else does. And at first it's hard. Your thoughts will feel louder than ever. Your body might resist. You'll question if you're doing it right. But here's the truth. The practice isn't in clearing your mind. It's in coming back when you've wandered. Every time you notice your breath again, every time you gently return your attention, that's the meditation. That's the moment. That's the healing. Because with time, something subtle begins to shift. You realize you don't have to follow every worry. You don't have to believe every fear. You don't have to let the past control your next breath. You begin to relate to yourself with more gentleness, more patience, more presence, and that changes everything. Meditation doesn't give you a perfect life. It gives you space. Space to choose how you respond. Space to rest in your own being. Space to be human without judgment. And slowly, the calm you find while sitting becomes the calm you carry into your conversations, your work, your relationships, your hardest days. It becomes less about the time you spend on the cushion and more about the way you meet the world once you rise from it. So if you're ever feeling overwhelmed, like the world is spinning too fast, like you've lost your center, like you're not sure what to do next, just stop. Not forever, not for long, just for now. Close your eyes, feel your breath, and return. You don't have to go anywhere else to find peace because what you've been searching for out there has always been in here. Still, quiet, alive, and waiting for you to come back. That's not an escape. That's your truth. That's home. And maybe now, after walking through all of this, not rushing, just feeling, something inside you feels a little different. So now you've heard them. 5 lessons that aren't just old ideas from long ago, but living, breathing truths you can carry with you into tomorrow. Lessons that don't ask you to be perfect or to change your life overnight. They simply ask you to see differently, to slow down, to remember what matters. Maybe something inside you felt a little shift. Maybe for a moment you felt a bit lighter, a bit more hopeful, a bit more you. And if you did, then these lessons are already working. Not because you memorized them, but because you felt them. You let them in. And now, they're yours. You can come back to this anytime. When the world feels too loud. When your mind won't stop racing. When you forget who you are for a moment. Press play, sit with these words, and breathe. And before you go, I'd love to know, what part of this touched you the most? Was it a sentence? A word? A thought you hadn't had before? Share it in the comments. Even if it's just a single word. You never know. That one word might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. And if this video helped you, inspired you, or simply made you pause, consider liking it, sharing it with someone you care about, or subscribing for more. This channel isn't about shouting into the noise. It's about creating little pockets of stillness, places where we can come back to ourselves, together. Thanks for being here. And until next time, take care of your breath, take care of your mind, take care of your heart. See you soon.